Hello everybody and welcome to another video. So it turns out ArenaNet are doing something really cool with short stories. I read one of them to you guys recently, one about the Zephyrite, called The Trek of the Zephyrite, that came out with the last bit of Living Story content, the Bazaar of the Four Winds. It kind of looks like they might start doing that regularly now. They might be releasing short stories on their main website that act as supplements to the Living Story. And that's really, really cool. If you guys want to read it for yourself, then there'll be a link down in the description. I want to put a video out on this one. I'm going to read it to you guys and then give you some insights on what I really take away from it. But in general, before I go on to actually reading the story itself, I think this is just so good. A lot of people are starting to recognize, you know, it's been obvious since Guild Wars 1 really, but people are starting to recognize that ArenaNet write these fantastic stories in this really compelling, interesting universe, but they tell the stories really, really poorly. These short stories are fantastic to me because, no, they're not voice acted, no, they're not necessarily in-game, no, they don't come bundled with some, you know, contrived personal story type mission. Regardless of all of that, they are raw lore, they're real stories, and it's very easy to immerse yourselves in them and be very interested in them. And because as they're coming out, they're to do with current events in Tyria, I find this to be really, really cool. I think it's a real damn shame that they're not there in-game. I do think they should just somehow put them in game, you know, just give someone a book to interact with somewhere, just added in the Black Citadel, for example, for this particular story that we can interact with, and yeah, just give us a wall of text, who cares, let us read it, let the players that don't search here, there and everywhere every day actually experience this stuff, because it's really easy to miss that they're putting these stories out. Anyway, that's kind of my general thoughts. I think this is really exciting, really cool, and if they do continue putting them out, I'd love to keep reading them to you guys on the channel. With all that said, today's story is called Delegation, and it features heavily Rox, the new Char character that was introduced to us during Flame and Frost Living Story stuff, and it also features heavily Rytlock Brimstone. Very cool story. It will give us a lot of insights into who these characters are. You know, I'm going to mention at the end of the video as well, there's some really basic stuff we don't know about Rytlock that this story sort of brings to attention. So yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get to it. This came out on August 8th, so 2 days ago. Frostbite always walked a little sassier in the Black Citadel. Rox wasn't sure if her albino devourer felt invigorated by the wave of strength and confidence High Legion soldiers projected, or if he was intimidated and faking in order to blend in. Either way, she was glad at least one of them appeared bold. Tribune Brimstone had personally summoned her to his office again, and it had sent her into an extended bout of quiet panic again. In a city full of fearsome authority figures, Rytlock Brimstone was in a class by himself, notoriously short-tempered, hard to please, and everything Rox wanted depended on her ability to impress him. She had taken all the precautions she could. When she woke up, she made a circle with a thumb and forefinger and spat through it 3 times. She put on her newest pair of boots and walked backwards out of the barracks to confound any bad luck that might be following her. She wore her 2 luckiest keepsakes, the first chunk of iron ore she ever mined, and the simple steel soldier's band Primus drill bit had given her upon graduating the Farrar, on a chain around her neck. She hoped these efforts would be enough to satisfy Fortune's fickle favour and allow her to stand or fall on her own merits. "Come on, boy," she said to Frostbite, "the Tribune's waiting." The Devourer chittered enthusiastically and fell in beside Rox as they entered the core and climbed the circular gangplank to the great metal sphere's 3rd floor. Laria, Rytlock's aide-de-camp, was just leaving Rytlock's office. "Is he in?" Rox said. Laria nodded. "But he's not happy. Watch yourself." She glanced down at Frostbite. "And watch him too. I'm not cleaning up any more Devourer mess." Laria scurried off, and Frostbite growled slightly as she went, his twin stingers quivering. "Don't blame her," Rox said. "You're the one who peed on her boots." "Rox!" Rytlock's voice came echoing out of his office. "Get in here." Rox's hands flashed from the oar to the ring, touching each in turn to verify they were still in place. "Heal, Frostbite," she said, "and behave. I mean it." Rytlock stood behind his desk. Laria had been right. The Tribune's eyes were hungry, his teeth clenched and his hackles up. As Rox approached, he drew a sheet of paper from the stack before him and angrily rolled it into a tube. "Tribune?" "At ease." Rytlock gestured at Frostbite with the now crumpled tube. "And that thing better be house-trained by now." "He is, sir, and again, my apologies. He thought Laria was challenging me, so he..." "Don't care," Rytlock said. "What do you know about the Human Queen?" Not much. She supports the peace treaty, but she's having trouble getting the rest of Kryta on board. She's having a party, Ritlock said. He extended the crumpled paper to Rox. For the 10th anniversary of her coronation. They're billing it as a celebration of human resilience, or some such slag. Rox kept her voice neutral. That sounds fun. Glad you think so. I've been invited, but I've got real work to do, and I'd rather pull out my own teeth than attend another state function. Ritlock smiled sharply. Congratulations. I'm naming you as my replacement. You are now the Citadel's official envoy to this important event. Rox numbly took the paper. Thank you? Ritlock laughed. It's not a promotion. It's an errand, but an important one. Whatever the Queen is trying to accomplish, we need a presence there to protect our interests. Smile politely, don't antagonize the other dignitaries, and steer the conversation away from the treaty whenever you can. The last thing we need is for this nonsense to impact the peace talks. Rox decided to be bold. Will do, Tribune, but if I may ask, this has nothing to do with you getting into the warband. Rox's face fell and Ritlock snarled. Burn me, your mind only has one track, doesn't it? Sorry, Tribune. I bet you spent all morning spitting through your fingers and loading up your kit with good luck charms, didn't you? Yes, Tribune. Some things never change. Ritlock's stern tone became more businesslike. There's another reason I want you to go in my place, he said. Logan Thackeray will be there. And any time you put Logan and the Queen in the same place, things get irritating. I don't have the patience for that right now. Or ever, Rox thought, but all she said was, yes, Tribune. Here's the invitation. See Laria for the travel details. She'll explain things to Jenna's people and make sure you're expected. Rox hesitated. Can I bring Frostbite? As long as you keep your head down and don't start any wars or set any palaces on fire, you can bring anybody you like. Bring a Devourer Queen for all I care. A thought occurred to Rox. So, Norna allowed? Ritlock snarled suspiciously. Who did you have in mind? That goofball cub you've been running with? His name is Braham, Tribune. Ritlock snorted. I said, bring anybody you like, soldier. Are you unclear on that concept? No, Tribune. Good, you have your orders. Handle this like it needs to be handled, and maybe then we'll discuss your potential future with the Stone Warband. Rox failed to hide a smile, but she did manage to not reflexively touch any of her lucky totems. Thank you, Tribune. Frostbite purred in support. Keep your ears up. This may seem trivial, but if the Black Citadel comes out looking worse than it did going in, you'll be stirring the Imperial smelter with a teaspoon. Understood. Don't worry, sir. I'll make you proud. And stop smiling when I'm threatening you. Smile when the job's done. Dismissed. Sir, Rox saluted, and then turned, eager to get out before Ritlock changed his mind. Frostbite was still fixed on the Tribune, however, and she saw the Devourer's legs tense, as if preparing to leap playfully onto Ritlock's desk. She nudged her pet with a booted toe and said, Come on, boy. Together, Rox and Frostbite double-timed it out of the office. She had a lot to do, speak to Laria, prepare for the trip to Divinity's Reach, and send a bird to Braham so he'd be ready to go. She glanced down at Frostbite. Want to go to a party, boy? We get to be dignitaries, and we take one step closer to the Stone Warband. Frostbite chittered happily. Rox touch-checked her good luck charms once more, and then smiled. Her totems had definitely helped the meeting with Ritlock go smoothly. Compared to that, the Queen's party would be a stroll in the park. All she had to do was collect Braham, make it to the Crichton capital on time, and not embarrass the Black Citadel. What could possibly go wrong? And that's the end of the story, guys. That took a little bit longer to read than I thought. I have to say, I mentioned this a long time ago. There is a series of videos I did on my channel before Guild Wars 2 came out where I was playing through Guild Wars 1 dungeons. But as I was playing through those dungeons, because there wasn't too much I could put commentary on, I was throughout the entire time reading out official lore blogs and stories like this. Anyway, back during that series, back before the launch of Guild Wars 2, I mentioned this all the time. I quite enjoy reading stuff, but I don't think I'm very good at voices. So if that sounded really weird to have Ritlock like being voiced by a British guy that doesn't do much of a voice, then I'm sorry about that. And also if it was kind of unclear who was saying what as well, do let me know and I'll try and work on it a bit. I mean, I can try and fake a Char accent, but it would just sound terrible. So Yeah, okay, aside from that though with the story, there was a couple of things I wanted to mention that I really sort of took away from this. First of all, they mention right at the start the High Legions. They just use the term High Legions. They say that Frostbite felt invigorated by the wave and strength of confidence High Legion soldiers projected. This is sort of almost slightly off topic, but when I read that, it just kind of got me thinking, why are they called the High Legions? The High Legions are just basically Iron, Ash, Blood, and Flame, right? They're the 4 large organizations under which the Char work, and we've never heard of any other legions, but I find it really interesting that there might be this concept, or at one point in Char history there was a concept of a low legion, you know, a legion like Iron Legion, but it's slightly smaller kind of thing. I think that would be really interesting to sort of dive into at some point, if it does exist, because otherwise why is it the High Legions? I guess just high in status, I suppose, but as compared to what? That's kind of what I guess I'm trying to say there. But that was pretty interesting. What I quite liked as well is the whole story here. We're actually looking at Rytlock, not from Rytlock's point of view. We're looking at it from Rox's point of view. Rox, who is not necessarily the most bold or special or interesting of Char, really. But that's what does make her interesting. What I really like about this story is we get to view Rytlock as your average Char views Rytlock. I think it's really easy for us, especially people who have read the second novel, to kind of just think, oh, Rytlock's sort of this jokey pally Char, and you're not really intimidated by him. You get that he's kind of a stern guy, and you get that he's an all-round Char and a mean Char at that, but you're never intimidated by him. And the power, the shift here is really strong, and I really like that. I like having that view of Rytlock and putting Rytlock as this incredibly high-ranking Char, you know, that we don't often get that perspective of him, and I really enjoyed that about this story with Rox here. Rox herself as well, you know, there's a lot of stuff to do with her backstory. Here we can see that she really wants to join Rytlock's warband. I mentioned at the start of this video that this story brings to light some really basic stuff we don't know about Rytlock. Who the hell are the Stone Warband? We don't have any information on the Stone Warband, but that's a huge part, you know, Char's warband almost is their identity, and we just don't know anything about the Stone Warband. I love that. I think that's crazy, and I would love to see in future perhaps that ArenaNet actually start giving us the details there, especially if Rox's wish does come true. We'll get to meet some more members of the Stone Warband. But the reason why I mention this is Rox too. We're seeing Rytlock from another light here and sort of learning a bit more about Rytlock, I guess, who's already a very well established character. Rox is kind of new on the scene. There's actually a lot about her backstory we don't know. She had a big accident that occurred to her in a mine. She was in like a mining accident. She's a Gladium. She doesn't have a warband right now, and her entire warband died in this mining accident that is still sort of a bit of a mystery, and none of the characters in the living story right now are teaching us what happened there. You know, we could find in these little short stories that this is where we start to get these reveals coming in. What did happen in that mine, and how long ago was it? How long has she been a Gladium for? And why particularly does she want to join this warband? You know, presumably a pretty prestigious warband at this point. Why is she so keen to join with Rytlock? Just because she wants to be at the top of the chain like that, or something else perhaps? Just a minor point. I thought it was really cool to have some really Tyrion specific good luck rituals, you know, this spitting through the fingers and walking backward. I think that's really cool, and I like the idea of the 2 items as well that she got, you know, what she graduated her Farrar with. You know, the Farrar, in case you guys don't know, this is where Char sort of live. They don't live with their families, you know, they don't live with their natural parents or whatever. They just go straight to the Farrar and they grow up there and they learn everything that they know about combat and strategy and fighting and life in the Farrar, and then eventually they graduate, right? It's like Char just live for boarding school basically, and when they come out that's when they get their warband. And you know, this idea that she got this item as she graduated, and this idea that the first bit of iron ore she ever mined, you know, I like that. I like these ideas of the good luck charms. And as well, what you can go sort of more high level speculation as well is luck really a thing? Is luck a part of Tyrion's universe and Tyrion's magic? I read a really interesting interview that was linked to me just a couple of hours ago, where they gave a lot of really tangible information about how magic works in Tyrion, which they've always kind of footstepped and pussyfooted around a bit. That was really, really cool, and you know, this is another one of those topics. Is luck a real thing? I mean, you can look at gameplay mechanics and be like, oh look, magic find. I don't remember too many specific instances in the Guild Wars lore where luck is sort of a thing, aside from perhaps Cantha and the Celestials and, you know, the fortune ticket tickets as we once knew them and stuff like that. And, you know, this idea of salt spray dragons bringing good luck. There was a very particular quest in Cantha to do with that. There was a dragon that brought everybody good luck or brought everybody bad luck. So, you know, that's kind of a thing, and I like that idea that maybe, you know, this isn't just a stupid, meaningless ritual here. This is actually something she did, and it helped her out a lot. And it sort of taps you into what magic can achieve in this universe as well. Another little thing, I mean, this isn't really lore speculation. There's two things, I think, that are written kind of weirdly in this. First of all, there's a typo at one point. It's one of those typos where it's the wrong letter, but it's still a word, so, you know, basic word editing wouldn't catch it, which is pretty funny on the blog post. And there's another bit where they use the word and or something. Again, they use again twice, and it's kind of weird to read, and it's kind of weird to say out loud as well. So I think they might be going through these quite quickly, but I don't think anyone should really rag on ArenaNet too hard just for a tiny typo if it's in there. I don't know whether people are, but I'm saying this is so good. I'm so happy they're doing the stories. I don't care if there's a single typo in these. I'm really happy we're actually getting this information here, and eventually as well if it gets transitioned in-game too. I found it very interesting as well. This is one of those short stories that's very dialogue heavy. We don't often get really dialogue heavy short stories, but because this is very much about the here and now and the progression of the story and learning about the characters that we're currently dealing with, I think it's really cool that they're going more dialogue heavy, and I quite like that a lot. A very interesting idea that I like, that I think would make me a lot more excited about the living story in terms of actual plot going forward, is if they're kind of ruthless with killing characters again. After I've just read this short story, I quite like Rox. I'm quite getting into Rox. I know a fair bit about her. I've spent some time with her in game 2 now. If they kill Rox, and then that could be amazing. First of all the players are going to feel really bad about that, especially after reading stuff like this and just spending a little bit more time with her. But if they kill Rox, that can put a lot of really interesting stuff on Brahim as well. And it's like, oh my god, how does this affect Brahim? Because they're becoming quite fast friends. I think that would be really cool. ArenaNet are talking about how they're going to do some more drastic stuff with the living story around the 1 year anniversary of Guild Wars 2 that sets the tone for what they want the living story to be. You know, a big part of the living story for them has been, is meant to have been how it's permanently changing the world and permanently affecting stuff. And, you know, we could see big stuff like this. Maybe a massive catastrophe is going to happen, and we might see some of these characters die, and I think I would actually be moved by that at this point, especially when they're putting out stories like that, like the one we've just read. So I think that's really cool too. I don't really have too many more bits of speculation about the story. I mean, there's some cool ideas. I like to think that, you know, during the Dragon Bash Festival, where we had another Char representative came down, I like the idea that Ritlock back then as well was like to this guy who unfortunately died, was like, oh look, you do this, not me, I can't be bothered with this, I don't want to be a dignitary anymore, I don't want to attend any more of these meetings, I just want to do my own thing. I think that's really cool, and I like that the living story through these waves is still keeping that focus on Destiny's Edge, because it was handled so weirdly at launch, right? A lot of people don't care or like Destiny's Edge at all, because they felt like they just come and steal the show, because all they did was play through their personal story. They didn't know about the dungeons, and then they were forced to do a dungeon at the end, and they're like, who are these people? What are they doing? You know, I do think that they haven't fully explored or used these characters, and it's nice that they're still sort of around there. I also like how much we've seen all of Destiny's Edge except Zodja. Have you guys seen that? Like, barely anything's happening with Zodja at all. I don't actually think that's too much of a negative thing either. I like this idea that one of them has become like really shady and is just sort of doing nothing right now, especially as Nasura. I'm like, yeah, that's my character. My character's just being really weird right now and isn't doing anything. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything for this short story, guys. Do let me know what you thought about it. Do you like this more dialogue heavy stuff? Did any of you even know it was here? I think the main problem with these stories right now is they are awesome. People don't know that they're coming out. And ArenaNet know that. They know that the majority of their players aren't the people that are going onto the website. I think today, more than ever, especially in the MMO space, developers can expect their communities and their players to be constantly online and looking for extra information. But I do still think the majority of Guild Wars 2 players don't know that this exists, and they don't know about all of the articles that get ArenaNet put up on their main website, and there needs to be more transparency, there needs to be more mentions of it, aside from perhaps just as you're logging in and on the little patch screen. I would love to see these in-game. I would love to see them implemented in, you know, a way like the storybook that you get in Ebonhawk is. You know, they split it into 4 or 5 chapters or something, this story here, 4 or 5 chapters, and you get one chapter You've got to like walk around a zone, a specific area. The Black Citadel, for example. I did a video where I was talking about, you know, there's a really fantastic looking area in the Black Citadel, the Undermarket, right? That area there. I thought that place looked really cool. Why couldn't they split this story into 5 sort of chapters and then give us 5 different interactable objects, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down in an area like that, so that players are encouraged to walk around and have a look, and give us like 2 achievement points for having found all of them. And, you know, just keep pumping out the short stories, and then slowly you're littering the world with all of these cool little things and these places, these reasons to explore places people aren't exploring right now, particularly the main cities. I would say don't even add them to explorable areas, just the main cities. Just put them in, you know, wherever they fit most, but put them in the main cities. That would be really cool. Anyway, I don't want to ramble too much. That's the story for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching. I will be talking to you guys in another video about that interview I was talking about just now, because I think that's a really cool interview about magic and stuff. But that'll be coming up. Thanks again,